Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Introduction, second part. So, what comprises the wild woman? From the viewpoint of archetypal psychology, as well as in ancient traditions, she is the female soul. Yet, she is more. She is the source of the feminine. She is all that is of instinct, of the worth both seen and hidden. She is the basis. We each receive from her a glowing cell which contains all the instincts and knowing needs from our lives. She is the life-death life force. She is the incubator. She is the intuition. She is far-seer. She is deep listener. She is loyal heart. She encourages humans to remain multilingual, fluent in the languages of dream, passion, and poetry. She whispers from night dreams. She leaves behind on the terrain of a woman's soul a coarse hair and muddy footprints. These fill women with longing to find her, free her, and love her. She is ideas, feelings, urges, and memory. She has been lost and half forgotten for a long, long time. She is the source, the light, the night, the dark, and daybreak. She is the smell of good mud and the back leg of the fox. The birds which tell us secrets belong to her. She is the voice that says, "This way, this way." She is the one who thunders after injustice. She is the one who turns like a great wheel. She is the maker of cycles. She is the one who leave home to look for. She is the one we come home to. She is the murky root of all women. She is the things that keep us going when we think we are done for. She is the incubator of raw little ideas and deals. She is the mind which thinks us. We are the thoughts that she thinks. Where is she present? Where can you feel her? Where can you find her? She walks the deserts, woods, oceans, cities, in the barrios and in the castles. She lives among queens, among campesinas, in the boardroom, in the factory, in the prison, in the mountain of solitude. She lives in the ghetto, at the university, and in the streets. She leaves footprints for us to try for size. She leaves footprints wherever there is one woman who is fertile soil. Where does she live? At the bottom of the well, in the headwaters, in the ether before time. She lives in the tear and in the ocean. She lives in the cambia of trees, which pings as it grows. She is from the future and from the beginning of time. She lives in the past and is summoned by us. She is in the present and keeps a chair at our table, stands behind us in line, and drives ahead of us on the road. She is the future and walks backward in time to find us now. She lives in the green poking through snow. She lives in the rustling stalks of dying autumn corn. She lives where the dead come to be kissed and the living send their prayers. She lives in the place where language is made. She lives on poetry and percussion and singing. She lives on quarter notes and grace notes, and in a cantata, in a sestina, and in the blues. She is the moment just before inspiration bursts upon us. She lives in a faraway place that breaks through to our world. People may ask for evidence, for proof of her existence. They are essentially asking for proof of the psyche. Since we are the psyche, we are also the evidence. Each and every one of us is the evidence of not only wild woman's existence, but of her condition in the collective. We are the proof of this ineffable female Newman. Our existence parallels her. Our experiences of her within and without are the proofs. Our thousands and millions of encounters with her intrapsychically through our night dreams and our day thoughts, through our yearnings and inspirations. These are the purifications, the fact that we are bereft in her absence, that we long and yearn when we are separated from her. These are the manifestations that she has passed this way. Sometimes I am asked to tell what I do in my consulting room to help women return to their wildest nature. I place substantial emphasis on clinical and developmental psychology, and I use the simplest and most accessible ingredient for healing: stories. We follow the patient's dream material, which contains many plots and stories. The analysant physical sensations and body memories are also stories which can be read and remembered into consciousness. Additionally, I teach a form of powerful interactive trancing that is proximate to Jung's active imagination, and this also produces stories which further elucidate the client's psychic journey. We elicit the wildish self through specific questions and through examining tales, legends, and myths. Most times we are able over time to find the guiding myth or fairy tale that contains all the instruction a woman needs for her current psychic development. These stories comprise a woman's soul drama. It is like a play with a stage, instructions, characterization, and props. The craft of making is an important part of the work I do. I seek to empower my clients by teaching them the age-old craft of the hands, among them the symbolic parts of talisman making, las ofrendas, and retablos, these being anything from simple ribbon sticks to elaborate sculpture. Art is important for it commemorates the seasons of the soul, or a special or tragic event in the soul's journey. Art is not just for oneself, not just a marker of one's own understanding. It is also a map for those who follow after us. As you might imagine, work with each person is customized in the extreme, for it is true that people are made one to a kind, but these factors remain constant in my work with people, and these are the fundament for all humans' work before them today, my own work as well as yours. The craft of questions, the craft of stories, the craft of the hands, all these are the making of something, and that something is soul. Anytime we feed soul, it guarantees increase. I hope you will see that these are tangible ways to soften old scar tissue, balm old wounds, and envision in new, thereby restoring the old skills that make the soul visible in down-to-earth ways. The tales I bring here to elucidate the instinctual nature of women are in some cases original stories, and in other cases are distinct literary renderings that I have written based on those peculiar ones given into my keeping by my tías y tíos, abuelitas y abuelos, omaj and opas, the old ones of my families, those whose oral traditions have been unbroken for as far back as we can remember. A few are written documents of my own first-hand encounters, some from a long time passing and all from the heart. They are presented in all faithful detail and archetypal integrity. It is with the permission and blessing of 3 living generations of familiar healer-tellers who understand the subtleties and requirements of a story as healing phenomena that I carry this forward. Additionally, here are some of the questions I pose to my analysants and others to whom I offer counsel in order for them to remember themselves. I also detail for you some of the craft, the experiential and artful play that assist women in retaining the numen of their work in conscious memory. All these help to bring about convergence with the precious wildish self. Stories are medicine. I have been taken with the stories since I heard my first. They have such power, they do not require that we do, be, act anything. We need only listen. The remedies for repair or reclamation of any lost psychic drive are contained in stories. Stories engender the excitement, sadness, questions, longings, and understandings that spontaneously bring the archetype, in this case wild woman, back to the surface. Stories are embedded with instructions which guide us about the complexities of life. Stories enable us to understand the need for and the ways to raise and submerge archetype. The stories on the following pages are the ones out of hundreds that I've worked with and pored over for decades, and that I believe most clearly express the bounty of the wild woman archetype. Sometimes various cultural overlays disarray the bones of stories. For instance, in the case of the Brothers Grimm, among other fairy tale collectors of the past few centuries, there is a strong suspicion that the informants, storytellers of that time, sometimes purified their stories for their religious brothers' sakes. Over the course of time, all pagan symbols were overlaid with Christian ones, so that an old healer in a tale became an evil witch, spirit became an angel, an initiation veil or caul became a handkerchief, or a child named Beautiful, the customary name for a child born during the solstice festival, was renamed Sorrowful. Sexual elements were omitted. Helping creatures and animals were often changed into demons and boogies. This is how many women's teachings tales about sex, love, money, marriage, birthing, death, and transformation were lost. It is how fairy tales and myths that explicate ancient women's mysteries have been covered over too. Most old collections of fairy tales and mythos existent to date have been scored clean of the eschatological, the sexual, the perverse, as in warnings against the pre-Christian, the feminine, the goddesses, the initiatory, the medicines for various psychological malaise, and the directions for spiritual raptures. But they are not lost forever. I was given as a child many of what I know to be unvarnished and uncorrupted themes of the stories of old, many of which I bring to this work. But even story fragments as they exist today can foreshadow the shape of the entire story. I've poked about in what I playfully call fairy tale forensics and paleomythology, even though at its heart reconstruction is a long, intricate and contemplative endeavor. I have been studying archetypal patterns for some 25 years and myth, fairy tales and folklore from my familial cultures for twice as long. I have learned a vast body of knowledge about the bones of stories and know when and where the bones are missing in a story. Through the centuries, various conquests of nations by other nations and both peacefully and forced religious conversions have covered over or altered the original core of the old stories. But there is good news. For all the structural tumble down in existing versions of tales, there is a strong pattern that still shines forth. From the form and shape of the pieces and parts, it can be determined with good accuracy what has been lost from the story, and those missing pieces can be redrawn accurately, often revealing amazing understructures which begin to heal women's sadness that so much of the old mysteries has been destroyed. It is not quite so. They have not been destroyed. All one might need, all that we might ever need, is still whispering from the bones of a story. I hope to be recording the last part of the introduction on the next video as soon as possible. Thank you for listening, thank you for commenting on the videos, thank you for your patience, and thank you for understanding that I do these recordings with love and respect and with very basic equipment. So forgive if there might be some noises surrounding the recording. But this book really helps me, and when reading it again for you, it helps me remind my way back home.